So question 47 from the homework, we're given this, that copper 2 oxide reacts with zinc to form zinc oxide and copper. The question asks, what's the oxidation state change for copper in the following reaction? That being said, we can still break this down into the redox reaction. So here, we can't ionize anything because everything is a solid. That being said, we can still assign an oxidation state to everything. So oxygen, if I'm going to assign an oxidation state to oxygen, right, oxygen is always -2. So if oxygen is -2, right, that means I would assign an oxidation state of +2 to copper in copper 2 oxide. One of the rules we covered was that any pure elemental solid, right, had to be 0. So zinc, solid zinc is 0 in that case. And then again, on the other side, I've got zinc oxide, solid, and copper solid. So yes, zinc oxide combined total is neutral, but we can still think of the oxidation, like what charge would be assigned to zinc, right? We would say that zinc is 2+ because again, oxygen is still 2-. Now to break that down into the half reactions, right? We've got oxidation and we've got reduction. Oxidation, remember, right, is the loss of electrons. Reduction is the gain of electrons. Well, zinc starts off neutral, right, and it ends up positively charged. How does that happen? Right, by losing 2 electrons, losing 2 negatively charged electrons. Right, so I end up, zinc is going to lose 2 electrons because these reactions have to balance, charge has to balance. So if on the left zinc is positive, but on the right zinc, or sorry, if on the left zinc is neutral, but on the right zinc is positive, I can't create charge. So somehow this has to balance. Because we were neutral on the left, I have to be neutral on the right. How do I do that? Well, by losing 2 electrons. So the negative charge here balances that out. Both sides were neutral. So, okay, if zinc was losing electrons, right? Zinc was oxidized. That must mean, you know, in this reaction that copper was reduced. So copper went from 2+, and we know copper ended up copper 0. I didn't write it in, but any pure elemental solid, right, it's going to be neutral. So how did copper go from 2+ to 0? It's going to gain those 2 electrons that zinc lost. So the oxidation state change for copper, right? Copper went from 2+ to 0, right? By gaining 2 negative electrons. So for questions 47, you know, I would say choice B is the correct answer, right? It gained a charge of -2. You go from +2 to 0 by gaining 2 electrons.
Why do you not like touch the oxygen? Is it because it doesn't change charge? Like,
Exactly. So the question was, right, why don't we do anything with the oxygen? And it's because in both of those cases, oxygen would be considered -2. It didn't change charge. So that means there aren't any electrons transferring to oxygen. There could be a case where we see something go from, like, let's say we heated, you know, copper oxide. Let's say we heat that up and that breaks down to give us, you know, 2 moles of solid copper and oxygen gas. There would be a case where we would need to focus on oxygen because here oxygen is -2. Here, as a diatomic molecule, oxygen is now neutral. So then, yeah, we would look at, okay, what happened to oxygen in this reaction? And now we have a redox reaction that involves oxygen. In this reaction, oxygen stayed the same, so we didn't have to assign any electron transfer to it because the charge stayed the same.